Hey everyone, my name is Chip, and I am a conservative who lives in Florida. Um, I hunt, I fish, I love hamburger, I love pork chops, I love bacon, barbecue chicken. I especially love blackened mahi, and I've been eating that food since I was born. That was, growing up here in the South, it's a staple to eat meat. It's actually somewhat of a, you know, you're not a man if you don't eat meat type thing. And I am switching over to a plant-based vegan diet. There's many reasons, but there's the biggest comes from my son was born very premature. He is our rainbow baby. My wife and I lost our first baby at 6 weeks, right after we'd heard the heartbeat. And we didn't know why that happened. Then we got pregnant with our son 3 months later. The whole thing, the whole pregnancy was issue after issue. Risk of Down syndrome. We had trisomy 21 testing. We had there was possible issues of leading to dwarfism from short long bones. We had a bunch of markers for other issues, and it just was like every single doctor's appointment and every single ultrasound was bad news. The worst news, I guess worst and best at the same time, was we found out at 26 weeks, after an appointment up in Jacksonville, Florida with a specialist, said my wife had preeclampsia. It was in the late stages, and had actually turned into something called HELLP syndrome, which is the worst form you can have. Extremely high blood pressure, liver and kidneys shutting down, white blood cells actually starting to dissolve the placenta. My son had a 2-vessel cord rather than a 3-vessel cord. It was just a nightmare. They told us that we needed to rush to a hospital, and we went to the hospital. They said that they said we were going to be having our son. We needed to get to another hospital because the hospital we were at could not take care of a child the size that our son was going to be. We were transported out to the Florida Hospital Orlando, Florida Hospital for Children, and we were up till late in the night getting my wife was getting ultrasounds. She was getting tests. They woke us up in the morning unexpectedly and said, "We are going to be taking your son in an hour and a half." We were rushed into the emergency room, or into the operating room, and I saw my wife, arms spread out on the table like she was getting crucified, with a sheet up, and they were already starting to cut her open by the time I got in there. My son was pulled out of my wife at 8:14 in the morning. The smallest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. He weighed 1 pound 3 ounce. He was 11 3/4 inches long, and he wasn't moving. They took my son, rushed him over to a table. There was probably 6 or 7 between nurses and doctors circled around him, crowded over him, working on him. And then I was told to sit down. I was holding my wife's hand, not even knowing if my son was alive or not. 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, whatever it was, I heard one of the nurses tell the doctor that heart rate is stable. It's the first time I knew my son was even alive. They told me I could finally come over and see him. I walked over to the table. He was wrapped in a Ziploc bag. He had a breathing tube put in, and he was the smallest thing I'd ever seen. He was finally moving from aside from what I saw the first time I ever saw him. And that was the beginning of our 124 days in the NICU, level 3 and level 2. The entire time that was happening, we were asking God, why did we lose our first baby? Why does this happen to our second baby? We were told the day he was born that he had a 40% chance of survival. And it was the most heartbreaking thing and most helpless. I was so helpless feeling. I couldn't help my son. I had to sit there and watch him. Watch him fight for his life every single day. He had surgery when he was under 2 pounds. He just recently had his 4th surgery on his eyes. And shortly after the 4 months ended, when we brought our son home, he came home on oxygen, came home on an apnea monitor. My wife was diagnosed with something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. Never heard of it in my entire life. And it was really crazy with all the stuff that is surrounded with this disease. My wife's hormones were out of whack. It was affecting everything in her life. She has an increased risk of cervical cancer. She has insulin issues, so she has to take medication for her blood sugar. She still has high blood pressure. And my wife went to doctor after doctor, and all they wanted to do was put her on medication. Recently, we started trying to research other ways because we want to have another child, and we had come to terms after all of that we were never going to have another child. It was something that was heartbreaking, but we came to terms with it. We had discussed adoption until we came across some studies and some testimonials from people who have switched their diet to a plant-based diet. The plant-based vegan diet has such a high success rate of reversing and even in some instances curing polycystic ovarian syndrome. People who were infertile, who had a lot of the same issues we had, we got lucky and our son survived. There's a lot of people that have had multiple children pass because of polycystic ovarian syndrome. The studies we came across reignited our hope that we could have another child. My wife was a vegetarian for 10 years, and I married her when she was vegetarian. She understood that I eat meat, and I understood that she eats soy and veggie burgers and all that type of stuff. And we lived very well with it until I saw some of the things that some of the stuff I was putting in my body was actually doing to me. Dairy is absolutely not supposed to be in a human body. Milk dairy, cow dairy. Red meat, chicken. Red meat is up on the carcinogen list with cigarettes. But we're told by the USDA that is part of the balanced diet, what every healthy American should be eating. That's not the case. From what I've looked up, from what I've researched, from the documentaries I've watched, that's not the case. You can get all your protein from plants. You can get all your calcium from plants. And it clicked. It clicked. We came to the determination that we are both, for separate reasons, going to be switching to a plant-based vegan diet. My wife, for the reason that she wants to cure PCOS so we can have another child, and me because I have type 2 diabetes running in my family, running rampant in my family. I have cancer running in my family. I have heart disease running in my family. The instances of all of those illnesses running into people who are on a plant-based diet are dramatically lower than they are with people who are eating, meat protein and animal byproducts. So this video series, this vlog, whatever you want to call it, I've never done this before, so I'm just going to call it, my videos. My videos are going to be about my journey transitioning from a meat protein based diet to a plant protein-based diet. It's going to be tough. Not every one of my videos are going to be cheery. I might have some days where I'm just begging for comments from people to keep me on track. So if you guys want to keep watching, I mean, this could turn out to be nothing. It could turn out to be, you know, the next big thing on YouTube, which it doesn't matter to me. I'm making these for me, and if anybody wants to watch, that's great. So if you want to keep watching, I'll post as frequently as I can. Like and subscribe, comment if you would, you know, give me some motivation. If you are a plant-based vegan, I'd really appreciate some words of wisdom. And the times that I'm having trouble with this, it would be great to have people lift me up. I'm doing this for my health, and I want to keep doing it so that my wife stays on track, so her health is better, and we can finally make this beautiful family grow. So I'd appreciate you guys liking and sharing and following and subscribing, or whatever you do on YouTube. You know, I really appreciate it. So God bless, and I'll see you guys soon.